welcome to the next episode of FeVR Dreams podcast and vodcast. And today we are recording this live on the 18th of April in 2021. This is Season 2, Episode 3, also known as Episode 9. And with me is my awesome co-host. So I am your host, Corbin78, but I have a co-host, and that is Cypher Orion. Hello there. And we have a special guest today from Antlion, and it's Joe. Hello, Joe. That direction.
Hello.
Hey. Hello, everybody. How are you guys doing?
How's it going, Joe?
Oh, I was supposed to answer. How are you doing? Doing great.
That's good to hear.
First.
We normally start this cast off with talking about the games we've played lately. And of course, we want to know what Antlion Joe is playing. It doesn't have to be VR specific, not limited, but...
Because it isn't.
Yeah, no problem there, no problem. It's interesting to see what people are playing and to hear about what they like about the games they play. So, yeah, please.
All right, I've been in a serious game drought since Cyberpunk disappointed the world. So what I've been doing is playing this sort of ungame Blaseball. If you're not familiar, we might go over that in a moment. And I've dipped my toe back into Mountain Blade Bannerlord for some reason.
Yeah, why do you like it that much? Why are those games you prefer over Cyberpunk?
Well, Blaseball is the easier thing to talk about, which is a game where you don't play anything. It's kind of vaguely like baseball. And every week is a season of this game that is not baseball.
I'm reading the description right now on the blaseball.com.
This description is not going well already. Anyway, teams play each other, and you get to basically earn coins and use them to buy votes towards changing the game permanently every season. In hopes of making your team do better, except everything is obfuscated. Okay. It's kind of like baseball meets Cthulhu meets, I don't know, the LGBTQ community. It's very odd.
The description on it says that so baseball is baseball at your mercy. Baseball perfected. Our players are inhuman. They play day and night, rain or shine. Like kind of is this the right one?
Yeah, this is the vague thing. Weather that you might experience in Blaseball could be it could be peanuts, birds. The current weather is birds. It could be flooding. Any number of things.
That's some terrible weather to have. Flooding. I experienced that a couple of years ago in Texas. It's not a good thing.
A player might be, I don't know, put in a peanut shell and then swept off of a base during a flood and then incinerated by an umpire. That could be like a normal season for a player.
That is fascinating and terrifying.
It sounds complex.
It sounds complex, but the reality is you don't do anything. It's an idle game, except for, vaguely trying to influence the game in your favor by voting at the end of each week.
It just tells you what happens. Like that's just here's what happens every week. And you just get to
I guess actually a better description of it is I consider it something like, imagine a Dungeons and Dragons game in which the developers are the DM and the players don't control any characters directly. They control things by voting on what to do next, except they don't get to know exactly what they're voting on or what it's going to do.
Okay.
And so
it's literally like a game of D&D with no players and people that just vote on what's going to happen. Gotcha.
Sort of, yeah. It's an interesting social experiment. If you're at all interested, check it out.
So
I strongly recommend it. It's free.
Is it connected with other players? So the voting is being collected from other players?
Yeah. It's all massive multiplayer.
That's interesting. Because I know idle clicker games, and they have a certain fascination. Seeing numbers grow, that's fascinating indeed. And the game on my Steam library that has the most playtime is an idle clicker game, which is kind of a shame.
But does it really have the most playtime, or does it just have the most CPU cycles?
The most time recorded on Steam, which is when the game is up and running, it's just counting. And as it's an idle clicker game where you idle, well, it's collecting time. But having that multiplayer connected, that's interesting. That's different to those idle clicker games I know. Yeah, but cool.
There's no clicking, for the record. You don't have to sit around and watch the games. You can watch So some people in this game, they watch every single play of their team, maybe even multiple teams. They're there for like every game. Other people, they log in once a week. I'm sort of in the middle. I keep an eye on what's going on because I think it's fascinating, just fascinating.
Yeah, I get that. Cool. Okay.
I was not expecting this. I've never even heard of that. That's absolutely fascinating.
That's why it's interesting to hear what people are playing. Yeah,
less interesting to talk about.
That's all good. It's a good game too.
Mm-hmm. Cypher, how about you?
I have been playing the real life equivalent of low key Minecraft. I take a shovel, I stick the shovel on the ground, I take some plots of stuff out of the ground and I move it.
How's your level up progression going there?
Yeah, my level up progression. Well, we just reached the insulation boss stage, so we have to do the insulation mini game where we're stapling insulation to the insides of the walls, just to fill Joe in because he looks a little confused. Yeah. I'm working on a streaming studio that's built inside of an 8x12 shed, so I haven't really had any gaming time recently, but I guess. Mostly it's been Synth Riders. Sundays, like today, I host at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Synth Sunday session for 2 hours, and we get down to business. Expert and master level, do force mode. It's a good workout. So yeah, that's what I've been doing lately. Basically, just digging holes and putting things on walls.
Yeah, sometimes I was going to actually just ask what you crafted your staple gun out of, but.
Yeah, well, I fished some scrap plastic out of the ocean, dragged it onto my raft, and then we found a volcanic island, and
this Minecraft game is crossed over somewhere into Raft.
Yeah, somehow. They're all related. How about Corbin? What's Corbin been up to?
As mentioned pre-recording already, I had a really bad cough the last 2 weeks and was sick at home for that because my stamina was not existing. Even climbing stairs was exhausting. So I stayed at home and didn't have the time to play at least VR games. But there's a lot of pancake games you can play. And 2 weeks ago on Friday, I wanted to play Everspace on Stadia. And we will talk about streaming services later again. And Stadia thought, we changed something and we don't give you 1080p anymore, but we give you now 720p. And I was like, no, I don't want to play in 720p. What else can we play then? And I was offering a little poll to the chat there while I was online. And Death Stranding came out. And I've been digging really Death Stranding a lot. So I don't know how many chapters are in the game.
Delivery simulator.
Yeah, isn't that the walking simulator?
Yeah,
now it's a truck.
It's now it's a truck and a bike. Oh, there are stories to talk about. Oh gosh, yeah. But Death Stranding came out. I played that, and I don't know how many chapters there are in, like 10 or more. And I'm at chapter 3, but I also have already 40 hours in. Because even though yes, you are delivering stuff from A to B and stuff, but they are doing that so well that you have fun doing it. You can upgrade stuff. You can build roads. It's a single player game though, but you're interacting with other players because they have something like a multi-universe thing going on, which you are still to discover. And what I wanted to say about the delivery simulator, it's like sometimes with programming languages. So people either bitch about it or they use it. And if and use it or not use it. Sorry, that was wrong. They either bitch about it or do not use it. And with Death Stranding, it's the same. People are making fun of the game because it's a walking simulator, but it's so well done. It's a really unique experience. I can't explain that because it's so different to all the other games we know. Yes, it's open world. Yes, you carry stuff from A to B, but the story is compelling. It's in a post-apocalyptic, mysterious. There are things going on that are not explainable. So it's about death and transitioning between the real world and the world beyond and coming back and stuff. So it's really good. I can't explain how good this game is, and it really hooked me. I'm surprised because I was making fun of people playing that as well. But in the meantime, I see the game completely different. It's really good. It's really good.
I was watching the Nord HD played that the first chapter, and he ended up finishing it offline. I was kind of mad because that was really engaging watching that first chapter in that game.
The story is good, and it has a good pace. The story advancement has a really good pace. So even though you're delivering stuff, but then there are also pieces of the story that are being revealed via emails or via interviews that you then can read. And there's so much stuff in it and explaining a lot of stuff. So there was a society, or there is now, the society is based on likes. I mean, that sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And they were talking
no idea what you mean.
That I saw.
Don't forget to like and subscribe, guys.
Yeah. And they're talking about it's so-called a drone syndrome, because
was that cringe enough? Talk about it in the comments below. Oh.
Did that work? I didn't get any subscriptions here, but okay. There's something called drone syndrome, because people were getting lazy and they were having drones now that could deliver the stuff, but then people are not walking around anymore because everything can be delivered. And then the social interaction between the people got lost. And that was then called drone syndrome, because everything has been delivered by drones and the social interaction was like gone. And then this mysterious
if they had made this game this year, it would have been Corona syndrome.
It's really interesting, because there's something going on with people when they die. Something happens. They can there's happening something that's called a void out, which seems to be a big explosion, which has to do with antimatter and matter. There's a lot of stuff in the story that needs to be revealed, and I want to spoil too much of it, even though I have probably not seen that much yet. But yeah, it's a really good game. I can recommend it. Give it a try if you like nice scenery and good music. Oh, and a good game. So yeah, that has mostly been my game lately. Excellent. Not that much VR, unfortunately.
Well, there will be more VR in coming months. I'm certain of it, as more games are getting crazy VR mods and stuff like that. I mean, we just saw Valheim get a VR mod.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty exciting. It's been eating up a lot of people's time. Like, I hear it's a really good game, so I've been avoiding it because I want to get some work done. But I really, really want to play it. And like Outriders came out, and everyone's been jumping on that bandwagon. I played the demo, and I really enjoyed it. But I'm like, if I get this game, it will eat all of my time. I'm not touching it. With the new VR mods that are coming out, like for Valheim, and then we got GTFO now, like. What are we going to see in the future with all this stuff?
I mean, the interesting part of that is there are two things to observe. So one thing is mod support is very important. It can expand the game a lot.
Very true.
And
very true.
Even though there is no initial VR support, or the game was never meant to be played in VR initially, people are enjoying that in VR and making mods for that. So that's the one thing. And the other thing is... I lost what I wanted to say. Dang it.
We'll come back to jump in here on this whole VR mod scene, which is, I struggle to think of another kind of instance. I consider VR a different medium than traditional flat screen entertainment, right? Like it's similar, but it's not the same. It's like, it's not quite as different as a book and a movie, but it's a jump in medium. And I can't think of any other content that gets ported like this, or like modded like that, like where you swap medium but don't change anything or try not to.
Yeah,
that's a really interesting prospect of actually trying to take. I've spent a lot of time thinking about this because I do game design and development and stuff in the background, and I've been working on that kind of thing for a long time now. But like thinking about how to translate from flat to VR, there's a lot of key elements that are really similar, and a lot of those things that translate directly and seem kind of obvious now, since we've got kind of the established, standards, I guess, for how to do movement and stuff in VR and what people can handle and what kind of accessibility options you need to have in there, especially things like, keeping flashing lights toggleable so that, anyone with epilepsy doesn't have to deal with that. And, like vignetting so people don't get motion sickness and those kind of things. But with the modding scene coming in and doing those things, it's absolutely essential, I think, to the VR gaming ecosystem.
So when somebody mods one of these, I haven't actually seen either of these mods like live. But when somebody mods one of these things, do they change like the asset sizes? Because one of the things that you'll notice in VR is, or not in VR rather, is that certain objects are much larger than they should be relative to other things. And in VR, you don't do that. You consciously have to make things look realistic. Otherwise, your brain kind of freaks out.
Yeah, it's true.
For the mods, I don't know. But for the games that are meant for VR, they're, as you said, they are making sure it doesn't overwhelm you too much. It depends, though, on the impression you want to give the player. Because sometimes you want to have things huge, and then you're doing differently, though. But the games that... There are two things. Games get developed and the community is demanding a VR support. And some companies then add VR additionally later. That has happened, for example, with Everspace, which is a space shooter. Mm-hmm. Not a simulation style, more arcadey. So you're steering it like a shooter with WASD and with mouse aiming and stuff. And for example, for Subnautica, those are the two where I tried it, and I have to admit, you feel it's not meant for VR. It's like the pancake experience, but you can look around and move different, and it's a little bit more tricky to move around. And I think that's more or less, yeah.
I think in those two examples, though, they did kind of a half-assed job of the implementations. I played the VR port of Subnautica, and the controls were extremely clunky. Like somebody had to go in and mod even the VR controls to make it playable, like to make it comfortably playable.
I guess my point is, and this is no offense to the mod community, but the developers are going to do a half-assed job. Is the mod going to be a half-assed job as well? Like, just, without developer support, it just, even if they do a great job, they might only be able to achieve a half-assed job.
It's more like you probably won't hear about the bad mods because they are just going under the radar and nobody is talking about them because they're not good. But the good ones,
15
which
people
arise,
tried it and
and you hear about those mods. So apparently they are not half-assed jobs because they are good, and a lot of people try that and play that. And
actually, somebody go check out the GTFO VR mod and the Valheim VR mod and let us know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I haven't yet. I mean, I played a lot of GTFO, and GTFO is, if you play that for the first time, it's terrifying. Because you are a prisoner, you are sent down into like a mine or something down there, where are a lot of mining equipment and stuff. And with the recent updates, they got new assets, so there's a lab now. But the initial thing about this, you are a prisoner, you are forced to go down there and accomplish a job. And something has happened down there. Everybody is dead, or people that are not dead have been transformed into something else. And the first time we played that, because it's hard. It's a very hard game. It's a 4-player co-op game. And if one of those players messes up, mostly the whole team wipes. And how you can mess up is, for example, triggering enemies. They are sleeping down there, those transformed guys. They look human, but they have bigger mouth, way bigger mouth. They can, they have something that's like a tongue, which is like 3 meters long, so they can even get you around the corner and stuff. And you want to take them out stealth, mostly. And if you cannot do that...
Stealth killing is the bane of my existence in games.
Yeah, and if you can't do that stealth, you wake up the whole room, then one of the guys is screaming. That doesn't only trigger the whole room, but the whole area. And then if you are not good team players and good at the game, you are mostly wiping. So
I am totally looking forward to playing this with the team in VR. This sounds absolutely amazing.
Oh my gosh! I don't know. I haven't tried it yet.
I don't think I want to experience. I don't want to experience that game anyway, but VR, because it sounds like it would be a lesser experience for me personally if I did that. Like Valheim, for example. Like, I want to play Valheim in VR too.
Yeah,
I want to live in that world.
Also, there's a Minecraft VR mod, which is pretty cool, which is probably on the same level as from the experience you can get from the game, like Valheim. I haven't played the VR mods of those at all yet, so I can't tell. But yeah, for GTFO, I know for sure that will be terrifying because those animals or whatever they are running at you and you have to get away and you can not really run. I mean, I know how it feels when you play a horror game in VR and something is jumping at you. You want to run, you want to evade, even though it's virtual, but something is really, it feels like something is jumping on your face also and you don't want that.
That's why we have those great blooper videos of people doing like the plank experience and just kind of diving into the ground. Like, whoa, too much experience. Calm down. Too much immersion.
Yeah, immersion in VR. That's always something we come back to because it's so good. It's so good. Yeah, VR is. That's probably where the uncanny valley and like the veil or curtain or whatever it is you want to call it is between flat gaming and virtual reality gaming. Even though, like the games themselves are essentially the same. Like they're constructed the same, they're built the same. There's a couple of different considerations for how to interface with the hands and the head and how to represent that in the game. But for the most part, everybody got that figured out now. So let's pull the curtain away and just give everybody access to both. Yeah, we need more games that are flat and VR together, I think. I think it had to mature a lot. I mean, VR is something that's still new technology. When was the first headset released for the consumers? Like 4 years ago? Is that true?
No, I think it's been longer than that.
5 years?
Talking about their Vive launch date?
Yeah, I think Vive and Oculus, they more or less released 16? At the same...
Yeah, I don't know, but 2016, wasn't it?
But I mean, we are playing games for way longer, like 30 years or so.
Yeah,
then it's 5 years.
We've had virtual reality since the late 70s that Sega had their headset, and then Nintendo came out with
but those
Virtual Boy.
Yeah, Virtual Boy.
They had another thing. Didn't they have the Virtual Boy? I don't remember what that was, but they had another thing, which was really with like the first the Elite game with these just polygons moving around thingy in red or so. I think that was the first Nintendo VR headset. But
I think it's a Virtual Boy.
Virtual Boy it was a red screen. It was all vector graphics.
Yeah, something like that. But I mean, that hasn't been immersive. I mean, it has been cool, yes, but the immersion just kicked off like 5 years ago or so.
Yeah, well, now we have the frame rate and the resolution that actually just really what we need, and now we're getting more FOV.
No argument on when VR rose to its current status.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and people need to figure out.
Weren't you there when it started?
Yeah, like, so that's why it's a little harder for me to remember. Is I've been involved in sort of the VR scene since before it was big, like before it was announced, like available for everybody.
Like TK1 before days, like way back then,
pre 2016,
pre 2016, right?
Not super early. Yeah. So before I worked with Antlion Audio, I ran a video game PR and marketing company, and I'm pretty sure my company was the very first indie game PR company. Awesome. Like in the world. When I started, they were often called shareware still. In fact, indie game wasn't really a term yet. Anyway, so interestingly, it was not the big publishers and the big development houses that really pushed the early VR stuff. It was a lot of small indie teams, like the guys that did Reckless Disregard for Gravity and stuff like that. We're doing a lot of the groundwork. And so, when I would, several developers I worked with were testing out stuff on VR pretty early on. So I'd go to like the Steam Dev Days, which is now a defunct sort of conference and that kind of thing.
Oh, I hope they do that again. There have been two, right? Two Steam Dev Days.
Three, I believe.
Three? I missed the third then.
I don't know about that. What was Steam Dev Days? Was it just like a
basically a game conference for developers put on by Valve? I mean,
that sounds awesome. Yeah.
It was actually a very good show. I do hope they bring it back someday, but as far as I know, no plans to do so. But yeah, I've been in the game industry for a very long time. I worked with a lot of different game developers, some now famous, some then famous.
The room where it happened.
But which headsets have you been testing before it was made available for the public?
Everybody I worked with was working on stuff with Vive. That was the.
Okay, I was expecting probably Oculus or so, because they were the ones that kicked that off again with showing their first prototype, and everybody was like, okay, VR will be a thing in the future. And Valve was not talking about that in public for a long, long time. And then they were...
Well, keep in mind, this wasn't in public, right? So
yeah.
True.
So,
and, that's just where my my circles run much closer to Valve, than they did Oculus. It's just simple as that, really.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that's cool.
I almost said Facebook, but that would not be correct at the time.
Yeah, now it is. Now we know
that did happen, didn't it? That was a kind of a big topic.
Fusioned.
Which means, yeah, you could call it that.
They bought them. They devoured them.
Yeah, more like they blob rolled over them.
Yeah, something like that.
Blob rolled over them. There we go.
They katamari'd them.
Okay, well, that's cool. So, and yeah.
So I was curious, so you've got all that experience with your consultancy and the VR industry starting up. I was just curious, maybe can we expect anything out of Antlion for some VR stuff or accessories or anything like that going to happen soon?
I don't think Antlion Audio is in the near future, at the very least, going to be making something specifically for VR. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of the things we have in the works might be useful for VR. I think, and in general, I think that's going to be our design philosophy, is to make something good and interesting and useful in a specific scenario or set of scenarios. Mm-hmm. And one of those scenarios might be VR, but I don't think I'm not going to say we'll never do it, but I don't think I see us in the near term saying, okay, we've got a lot of VR users that use our Mod Mic wireless. Hey, neat. What else can we do for VR? And with that specific railroad, focus.
Yeah, let me tell you my story how I came to the Antlion Mod Mic, because at first I had the HTC Vive as well, and even though the microphone is not the best in there, it does work. And if you have a working microphone, well, it depends. Over time, you want to have better quality. But what really made me get a dedicated microphone was when I was using or getting my Valve Index, the microphone didn't work for me. And there I was like, okay, how can I get that fixed? How can I get a microphone that works on the headset without having another, because the Valve Index does have already headphones or the boxes that are hovering over your ears. But how can I get something that's not another headset over the headset? And then I was looking around and came and discovered the Antlion Mod Mic, the wireless one, because I didn't want to have another cable attached to there, because cables, having one is already tricky enough. But if you have even two, it might be even more dangerous if you don't tie them together. And if you tie them together, maybe one is pulling the other, and I don't know. So yeah, I was discovering the Mod Mic. And later on, I discovered that I can get the Index microphone working, but I'm still loving this. So this is how...
I mean, when we made the Mod Mic concept, we didn't think about VR at all. It was created in 2012. When we made the wireless, we did think about it a little bit, but we really had no idea how useful it was going to be to people.
Oh yeah,
incredible! That was the best idea. Best idea ever.
My favorite use of it has been on my Quest 2. I can just mount it straight to the bottom, right there, and it's right where you need it. It's out of the way, and you're not going to hit it while you're playing. It's amazing.
I mean, I would hit it. I hit myself in the face all the time playing VR.
Bonk.
I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong. I'll hit myself in the face. But the Mod Mic has only taken a couple of hits, and it acts like a champ as soon as it gets knocked off. It's like, oh, I'm fine. Just slap it back on. You're good to go.
That's it was one of the main benefits of using a magnetic clasp system, which is where our patent lies.
Absolutely.
But yeah, if you use a more fixed system like Velcro or something, it does not respond well to impact.
Gotcha. So Antlion's going to be more focused on kind of wider industry usage for audio devices and things like that. I think that'll probably benefit us in the VR industry and entertainment in general too. So I'm sure we'll be keeping an eye on Antlion.
Yeah, I'm always itching to talk about the things that we're working on or talk about making, but I can't. I mean, I'm not allowed.
I know, and it pains me. I feel the pain with you.
Yeah, I do have. I have our logo for the upcoming new product, which is I can only show the initial K of it.
Can you bend your finger a little?
No, because underneath that is the actual name of the product, as you know.
Oh, okay.
I know, yes.
I know nothing. I don't know what you're talking
You guys
about.
are all sealed by NDAs, but
I have not signed any.
Oh, then you don't know what it says.
Yeah, he absolutely doesn't. No, Corbin actually doesn't know what it is.
No,
so.
Okay, then well, it's a secret to you too.
It is. It is.
I mean, it will be awesome.
I think this upcoming new product will have a very specific niche to fill in VR for some people.
Oh, good.
And I can't tell you why or what it is. I think there is a small segment of VR users that'll find it useful.
Well, maybe we'll have to have you back on when that happens, and
absolutely,
we can finally talk about it.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be awesome because I know this device is already awesome.
Oh yeah.
So before we partnered from Team FeVR with Antlion, and I have to admit I don't want to use any other one than the Antlion Mod Mic wireless anymore because
keep going.
Seriously.
Before I had headphones with a cable. I was having the Logitech G930 headset, and that had a lot of issues if there is a lot of radio going on the 2.4 gigahertz bandwidth, and then it's getting disconnected all the time, and that was so annoying. And having a cable then connected for charging or whatever around your neck, I don't like that. That's why I have a Bluetooth headphone now that's connected to the PC wireless, and having then another microphone that would have a cable, no way. So this is, as you said, probably that's why there's no other microphone having that, because you have the patent for the magnetic thingy for the attachment and stuff. So that,
there's more secret tech that goes into it for sure to get that high quality, but
I do think it's important for legal reasons just to mention that we are in fact sponsored by Mod Mic, but all of these are our own opinions on the devices, because I personally love this.
I am ultra sponsored by Antlion.
Antlion. Okay. We're so used to saying the word Mod Mic. You got your Mod Mic, and we're just like,
it's okay. It's a pretty common mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really helpful.
Thank you so much for sponsoring. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very
having the support from these awesome devices.
Thank you guys for using our products and showing them off to the world. I mean, it's we literally cannot do it without not just people on Twitch or YouTube, but just everyday users. Almost all of our business is word of mouth driven. So
and,
we're not Logitech. We don't have the budgets to.
Yeah, a few months ago, you did a big promotional thing for teachers too, didn't you?
Yeah, it was still going on. Actually, you can still go to our teachers page, which is on our website at the bottom. You can find it. There's a little link for teachers. We're trying to make sure that teachers who are doing hybrid classrooms have access to mod mics at cost or wholesale prices. It's only available to teachers, but if you have a teacher's ID, you can get access to a super cheap wireless mod mic. And I strongly recommend it.
Tell all your teacher friends, because I'm sure they can use it with all the Zoom meetings and things going on right now.
Well, so the idea is hybrid classrooms are the ones that are like part in person, part not. So they're in the classroom with some students, but some students are still virtual. And the reason the wireless works so well in that situation specifically is that it lets first of all, your hands are both free. You're not carrying around a mic. Second, as you move around the room, you can help students still be heard by your people on the Zoom call, So, and there's no, I wouldn't say there's no echo, but it's severely reduced from a lot of the stuff I've seen teachers using. I mean, I've seen teachers wandering around with karaoke mics. I've seen them wandering, just using the laptop mic and carrying the laptop around.
Oh, man, I've seen that. Yeah, that's rough. That's really rough.
And, schools were not ready for this. Who was? And, schools notoriously have limited budgets. So the teachers don't want to spend a ton of money, which is totally understandable, on something that is hopefully temporary. But at the same time, it's a good life upgrade. So
I would be interested, because I mean that's something something you can only do if you can afford it, I would say. So how is Antlion doing during the last 1 or 2 years during the pandemic. I mean, I can imagine we see that with at least webcams. A lot of people are buying webcams a lot. But does that also comply to microphones, especially for the Antlion?
Yeah, we saw a massive increase in demand. We had trouble during the first months of the pandemic, that sort of March, April, May time. We had rolling product shortages just globally everywhere. And we were producing them as fast as we could, which was hampered slightly by a lot of factories being shut down in China. So it was not as fast as it normally is. But yeah, we just had trouble keeping up with demand.
It was just like, there's no mod mics. Where are the mod mics?
And yeah, we're still seeing elevated sales and demand, which we attribute mostly to the pandemic still.
Yeah, well, that's pretty cool.
Business, but good that we're getting excellent quality products in people's hands too, though.
Yeah, you mentioned before there's a lot of stuff going on technically wise to get this great quality out of wireless USB microphone, which we are not used to from other headsets and stuff. So can you
the latency on it's phenomenal.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
How does it work? The secret sauce basically comes down to the traditional wireless Bluetooth connection. So if you're using Bluetooth, there is no way to get your microphone to have the full bandwidth of the connection. Like, it just doesn't exist. It uses usually 16 kilohertz out of the total range of quality. So our first task was to figure out how to get around that. And that's really where it comes in, which is to trick the entire system into thinking that the microphone is your headphones. And so we swap the whole thing around.
Okay.
And then we have some technology on the receiver side to decode that and then change it back into regular audio that your PC is like, aha, I'm receiving this.
This is input. Good.
Okay.
So that's why we're the only aptX low latency microphone, period. Like, nice. Full stop. Like, I don't think there's another one. At least there wasn't the last time I looked.
So if it's literally like headphones, I'm kind of surprised you guys don't have headphones based off of this technology that's wireless too.
I can't comment on future product development.
We've touched on an NDA subject that I'm not privileged to. Okay. Maybe. I think that's a maybe. So that's all we can say.
Okay, but that's pretty interesting how to get around that. Okay. The other thing is then you also need kind of operating system support, I guess. And because that's what I'm most excited about, because there's a little operating system mentioned here, which is Linux. Because I'm using Linux.
I heard you're the Linux guy. So the great thing about USB is that the U part of USB, which is universal, since that format is basically accepted across everywhere, and since the universe has decided to everybody get on the same page with an asterisk about default USB audio protocol, USB audio is so simple compared to analog audio. It just is. It's just so much easier from the tech support side. When we started with a 3.5 millimeter mic, we still have that. But man, there are so many little details you have to get right in order to get that thing sounding good. But I mean, it has the same thing. 3.5 millimeter audio is universal as well. So we want to make sure we keep up with that. The asterisk is Mod Mic Wireless does not work with the MacBook Pro 2018 and 2019. Only those 2 years, only those two models, and not because it's anything we did, it's because Apple screwed up. They have something called a T2 security chip that has a USB timing issue for high-end audio. So anything that is good audio just doesn't work with the USB port on a MacBook Pro.
So that
2018 and 2019
functions, but not. I wouldn't say it works then.
You can get a signal, but it won't sound good.
Yeah, it's so icky.
You can bypass that with a Thunderbolt dock or some other way to bypass USB audio. But
interesting.
As far as I know, that's the only operating system it doesn't work on. It's not really an operating system so much as a
it was just a specific combination of things. Yeah, then it's okay. But that's very cool. So you just stick to the specs, and it works everywhere where USB is supported, right?
Yep.
So did you like specifically test the operating system then, or was it like, it has to work more or less? We tested once, it does work.
Well, I mean, we tested the big three for sure. We tested those prior to launch. I would say some things that we didn't test that we were like happily surprised. Things like cameras and stuff, phones. That phone operating systems, that kind of thing. We weren't really sure. We didn't really care, frankly. I mean, it was like, if it works, it'll be nice. But because again, it's using all just default drivers. Whatever it plugs into, it just accepts. The downside of that, and this is the reason for big feature requests that we don't do yet, and we might never do, is we can't display battery life on your desktop. Or in fact, we don't really display it on this thing either. Maybe in version 2 we'll have that, but the reason is that would require us installing software, which means we then have to begin actually like internally supporting operating systems, which is that's a big hurdle. That's a big ask for a small company.
I see. Yeah, I was pretty surprised because I was looking on YouTube for a video, and there somebody said, it doesn't work on Linux out of the box, and I was like, what? I plug in the receiver and it did work for me, but he was saying
probably some Linux distribution that it doesn't work on. or maybe they deleted their default drivers.
I have no idea. It was something with the frequency where it's recording, like 44 kilohertz or 48 kilohertz. But somehow I didn't have that issue on both frequencies, so I don't know what. Yeah, you can
get that sometimes with. In fact, Windows itself, right after we launched, had an update that broke USB audio in traditional Windows fashion. So what would happen is when you plugged it into your thing, it would default it to telephone quality. You have like that drop down menu in the advanced screen where you can select like, I want DVD quality audio, which is like, what we normally default to. It was defaulting to the
8 kilohertz
earliest one. Yeah, it was sounded awful. And we got like a string, like dozens of emails, like all at once, all of a sudden, about like, why does your microphone sound so bad? And we're like, oh
my, thank you, Microsoft. Yeah, things like that happen.
Hey, everybody, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello?
I mean, I can probably do it live. I can probably do a live swap to telephone quality.
No.
You guys talk about something else while I set this up.
Talking about something else.
Bit drop filter.
What do we have on the list there?
So we got I don't know. We got Pico Neo 3. That was kind of exciting. We don't have a lot of information on it, but looks like it's a new mobile headset from Pico Neo, or from Pico. Their Neo 3. Looks like it's set up to compete with the Quest 2 fairly directly. No real mention of battery life on it, but it's going to be an independent headset. They've got some pictures posted of the controllers. It look very similar to like the Quest and Quest 2 controllers with the inverted ring on the top, thumbsticks, buttons, and grip controls. That seems to have become standard for VR. And it's white. That's pretty much what I know. It
looks identical to a Quest 2.
Yeah, it essentially looks like, hey, I want to be a Quest 2. And it's also got the Qualcomm XR2 chip in it, so it is just as powerful as the Quest 2 itself. So I'm really excited to see what comes from that.
Yeah, and of course, maybe we can buy that in Germany again, because Facebook stopped selling everything in Germany. Yeah. So maybe you can get something that's like the Quest 2 again in Germany.
That's true. Something that's actually offered in all countries instead of most countries.
I was sadly unable to do what I wanted to do because it'll kill the microphone if I change the quality midstream.
Okay. Womp womp. Maybe not that a good idea right now. Yeah.
Curse you, Windows subsystem.
As far as the Pico goes, it really does look like, a variety of Asian backers are behind this company. And, it seems to be sort of the Oculus for Asia.
It seems like kind of an alternative product.
But at the same time, it's clear that they've abandoned a lot of the tech they had before, right? They had some sort of magnetic sensors. And it looks like, at least a rumor is that this new system is going to move something closer to Facebook's system, which, to me says the smart business move was, yeah, we spent a lot of time and money developing these things, and then somebody came up with a better idea, so let's just do that.
Yeah, because it looks like the new controllers have a drastically different design than the original one, and I think Prindash was actually exposed to one of these things at CES a couple of years ago. It's one of our teammates. And if I'm remembering correctly, he said that the latency on the magnetic tracking tech was kind of lacking. Like they let you play Beat Saber in it, but it was like playing in molasses, kind of. If I'm remembering him correctly, and very similar to like the Nolo, because that's like sonar based. If I'm remembering that right, and it worked a little bit better, but it's still got that weird latency thing.
Yeah, I wonder if sound can even move fast enough, even at that short distance.
I have no idea. I didn't see that at all yet, to be honest. So I'm surprised because even though you said they are China-based.
Somewhere in Asia, for sure. They have an office in Beijing, and it's clearly an Asian-backed company. But
I mean, for example, there's Xiaomi, who's doing good technology for very little money. So I don't know. Maybe it will be eventually good. Because what I've seen from Xiaomi, the mobile phones and the wristband stuff, that's really good tech for little money.
Yeah, I don't think I wasn't saying it to as if like somehow they're going to produce a bad product because it's based in Asia.
No, it was like they abandoned stuff and are not putting full force behind it. That's how I interpreted that right now. But
no, I'm saying that they seem to have abandoned their original design, some of their original design elements, and in favor of going with what Facebook is doing. I mean, again, this is all based on a very brief preview.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, they're mimicking.
I think that's a good sign, though. That's a sign that the company is paying attention to the market and the technology, and not just saying, well, we're going to do it our way, even though our way is not working.
Okay. Oh, yeah, okay.
Fair enough.
Yeah. It's always best to be the second in development in a lot of ways. I'm not going to say it's always best, but it's always easier to be second. Yeah. Right. You let somebody else take all the risk, and then you become Burger King, right? And you say, well, Burger King's not McDonald's. They make plenty of money.
Indeed.
Plenty of burgers.
Yeah, if you have somebody who does if you have somebody there who's doing all the heavy lifting already, then you have it a lot of easier. Yeah, way easier. I see.
Yeah, we definitely see that very starkly. I think with a lot of some of the VR games, coughing synth writers, of course. Because it seems to be like there's Beat Saber and synth writers is just kind of like, okay, you guys are doing this. We're just going to kind of they're doing great in the industry.
I guess they are doing pretty fine as well. So
yeah, it's awesome to see see good companies grow.
Yeah, together. Even though they are a little bit always on the second place, but I think that doesn't really matter. I wanted to go back a little bit to Antlion and. What are people giving you for feedback? Especially it's for the Mod Mic wireless, for example. I mean,
what are the big things that we know we need to change?
For example, yes.
USB-C,
okay.
USB-C. We get that a lot.
USB-C?
Yeah, okay. USB-C. Everything USB-C. Got a USB-C?
Yeah, well, USB-C is probably the next standard, really. But the Mod Mic,
the other super big complaint, and I'm really happy with the complaints we get for the wireless because they're all like basically all things I agree with and things that we know we need to change. And dedicated on-off switch.
Okay.
Everybody hates the 2-second hold.
I
still get it wrong.
Wrong in many ways. Yeah.
I've been doing it since before it was released, and I still can't get the timing right. So clearly that was a terrible idea.
It usually takes me 2 or 3 attempts.
Yeah, you're not alone. Again, these things are these things are pretty minor, not the end of the world.
Yeah, no, it's working fine. Yeah, but
still. Not written in stone, but we do hear a lot of feedback around getting some sort of battery life indicator that's more than just low battery. He's turned off his mic. He's done it.
Oh, that's just two. That's two. Hold on. There. Okay. Three attempts. There we go.
Yeah, well.
I love talking about the flaws in the product. No.
What about? Yeah.
Better battery life is always, of course, something we're going to struggle towards.
What the battery life on them? I think I've had it last up to 18 hours on me before.
It should only last 12, but I won't say it didn't last 18.
I mean, it may have only been 12, but I swear I did 2 full like 6 to 10 hour streams sometime last year, and my mod mic didn't die on me until I absolutely had to charge it. Like, it was gone, and I kept turning it back on to say like 4 things, and it would stay alive for just long enough for me to say that, and then it would die again. And I was like, oh, I have to go because I have to charge my mod mic. But it lasted 2 whole days. Holy crap! I was going to comment on that earlier too. Like the battery life on these things, in my experience at least, has been super great.
Yeah, I have to admit though, I'm using this now more or less, maybe not really daily, but on a almost daily basis for 2 years now, and I think I'm less than 12 hours now.
Yeah, so the charge cycle, our rating for the battery is 500 charges, and it will be at 95% battery at that point after 500. And that's where you start seeing big drops though after that 95. So we don't have a rating for beyond that. We don't know exactly how long it's going to last after the 500th charge, so to speak. But we do know the battery life will start dropping. We do estimate under heavy use, it's about 2.5 years, depending on heavy use. And heavy use is like daily use for 4 to 8 hours a day. So
that's kind of what's happening to my mod mic right
so
now.
You are heading into the end of life of your product. I believe for most people who, they remember to turn off their mic and they don't, they're not streaming every day for multiple hours at a time. We estimate the life of the product somewhere around 3.5 to 5 years for most people. And then you're going to start seeing battery problems. We do have a policy if you have a Mod Mic wireless and the battery is gone, to get a replacement on the cheap. So that is an option for people. You just have to email us.
Maybe a replaceable lithium-ion slide-in battery.
We definitely talked about replaceable batteries for version 2, and even for this version. We also talked about like wireless charging docks and stuff for this version that didn't make it into reality. So there was like all kinds of cool stuff we can do. I'm not going to say we're going to have these things in version 2. The reason it doesn't exist in version 1 is the other big thing people complain about for this product, of course, is that that's $120 retail US. Which is a lot for somebody who's, some people it's nothing, but some people that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's a good chunk.
And, we're cognizant of that. We know it's expensive, and we did not want to make it more expensive by adding replaceable batteries. Like it would have pushed the price into the 150 to 200 range.
Does what's the power requirement on it, if I may ask? Like how much, or what's the power draw, and what voltage is it running? Just standard 5 volt?
Yeah, man. I'm not an engineer. I'm the marketing guy.
Okay. Well, I was just curious because like the battery life on the Oculus CV1 and Quest controllers, for example, is excellent because you can get rechargeables that run 1.2 volts, slap them in there, and they're good for like a couple of weeks. I'm just wondering if it would be possible to do like
a lot of the voltage is taken up by the range. So their Bluetooth allows basically 3 ranges, 1 meter, 10 meters, and 100 meters. This is a 10 meter microphone. So our problem was 1 meter is too short, and 10 meters is probably more than most people are ever going to use, but we'd rather it, be longer than shorter. And so that's where a lot of the battery draw goes, not to the microphone capsule, but rather the transmitter. Can that be improved? Probably. I would guess that first of all, that the wireless controllers you're talking about don't use Bluetooth, which is more power hungry than whatever that thing is using, some sort of RF band.
Yeah.
But yeah, my guess would be if they used Bluetooth, they would also be using 1 meter because unless your arms are very long, it's not going to be an issue.
Yeah. Okay. Understandable. Man, but
there are some cool technological improvements. One of the big announcements last year was something called Btle, Bluetooth Low Energy, which may be just the thing we're looking for to give us, a 100-hour battery. Isn't
it also Bluetooth 6 technically?
Yes, it's not. This is not going to be soon. Btle is part of Bluetooth 6 package.
Yeah,
we don't have very much information. Even as an audio company, we don't have a lot of information about this thing. So I can't tell you very much about it other than they claim that it should deliver high quality audio, low latency, low energy. How high quality? Is it going to be high enough? If we can ditch aptX low latency, we can bring the Mod Mic down in price. And that's so not only, we're very excited by the potential of this, but again, big asterisk. We have no idea if it's actually going to work and deliver the quality. If we have to choose between price and quality, we always choose quality. That's just a company ethos.
Did you receive any feedback, positive or negative, about the plug? Because, for example, for me, it's like on the headset here, I have the controls on this side, so I had to put it on the other side. But if the battery is running low now, the plug is on the upper side, and this looks a little bit strange.
This so heavily, both which side to mount it on by default, and then also what about having two different charging points so you can mount it on either side. So we talked about in development having a charging port on the top and a charging port on the bottom. I actually don't remember why we killed that idea. I think it was a problem with the space inside the unit that adding that second port would actually have to make it larger. And we were already having trouble fitting it on certain popular headphones like the AKG 700 series, like a AKG 712. With that really weird ear cup shape, and it's just really hard to get a mod mic in there. And so we're thinking, man, if we have to make this thing fatter, it's going to be a nightmare.
Okay.
Why wasn't, for example,
look that up? But that is kind of goofy.
So maybe it's because of design, but the port could have maybe gone to the backside or so.
That would be the worst of both worlds, actually.
Okay.
So the reason you want it plugged into the bottom is that you don't want a lot of pulling pressure on that magnet. It's bad for the adhesive mostly. So you don't want to keep that torque to a pretty minimum. But also, when you have a cable that bends like over the top, our old mod mics, if I have one here. We have this little strain design that keeps the cable pointing down when it's mounted. And you want that to keep the strain off the cable. If the cable is bent like this all the time, you're going to break wires. It doesn't happen instantly, but the life of the product will drop about 50%.
Oh, okay. Okay, good to know.
Although it's less of a big deal with the wireless, because if you break an extension cable, who cares? But still, that was the design philosophy going into it. In the will version 2, have a top and bottom port charger. Maybe. Again, I don't know for sure. It's certainly on the list of things we're considering.
So there's a version 2 in the works.
This part right here.
There's a version 2 on paper of things we want to do. I would not say that we are developing it or anything.
Oh, okay.
I would propose a magnet charger that just attaches to the magnet thingy.
Yeah, we definitely talked about that. Some sort of, what is it called? An induction charger?
Yeah,
no,
not engineered.
Like the direct attachment ones that they have for like the
MagSafe
and stuff. The ones that just have the little magnet thing right on.
Yeah, isn't that still an induction charger? I don't know the technology.
No,
Again,
it's
not an engineer.
It's direct contact.
No,
it's actually direct contact.
What the newer MacBooks all had, where you just attach it via a magnet, and if you pull on it, it falls off without any hassle. If you remember those.
Yeah, I guess the only downside would be that you can't charge it while you're wearing it, but either way.
Well, it definitely needs that. It definitely needs to be able to be charged while wearing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of considerations that go into these things, and sometimes we test them and we realize that we have made a terrible error, and sometimes we release products and realize we've made a terrible error, and like the power button.
Yeah. Oh well, it works, so it's not a showstopper.
That's right. If it didn't work very well, we'd have released a new one by now.
Yeah, but, I guess so. The other thing I would like to know, so I'm not that into microphones that much. I can hear if it sounds good or it sounds terrible, that's for sure. But when I listen to the microphone of the Valve Index, for example, that has like more or less the same quality than the Mod Mic wireless, so a very high quality. And what I'm wondering is about, so Valve is using, for example, 2 microphones, and they're doing some stuff via software, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, they do DSP work in their system. digital signal processing.
But I mean, what's all inside the mod mic? Is there something like a compressor that makes?
Yeah, no, it's pretty simple in there. Really, you can actually. One of the things that we get complimented on a lot that I'm quite proud of is we just use screws. And there's no glue. There's none of those tabs that you snap off. You can just unscrew it and take a look at the components of a mod mic and just put it right back together without doing any damage.
And
so what's in there? I mean, again, not an engineer. I'll just keep repeating this over and over again. But you've got 2 microphone capsules that are right next to each other, and then a little PCB board, a little circuit board, to control that switch. That sends an analog signal to the wafer back here, where it turns it into a Bluetooth signal and sends it out. I mean, it's really that simple. There's no. I don't think we do anything to change the. We don't do any hardware processing of the signal beyond the conversion to digital, which is of course a big deal, right? You have a nice C media chip in there doing that heavy lifting.
I just thought of this is it's very important. Are we ever getting adapters so that things like this are going to be? Because this
are you making a porno? What is going on here?
Whoa, hold on. Whoa.
Shock mount? Is that a shock mount?
Never mind. It's a terrible idea. We don't need that. Sorry, I was just making a joke. Shock mount. It's a shock mount.
Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't tell what it was against the green screen. All I know is I had a hole in it.
Oopsie.
Yeah, we are talking about. I will say we are talking about making a professional level mod mic. So an XLR mod mic with a higher level capsule than we use in our current stuff. And we use good stuff in our current mics, but taking that a step further into the sort of really real pro broadcaster range.
But with that,
nice handheld then or mounted.
XLR is not wireless, is it?
No, it won't be wireless.
No, it's definitely a cable.
Because one thing that's like,
and again, I'm not saying we're making this thing. I'm saying we talk about making it.
But
maybe we'll make it.
It's interesting to hear your ideas. It's totally interesting to hear about your ideas. Because one thing that would be neat for streamers and stuff to be able to hear their own voice. And that kind of only works with hardware, where there's no software processing in between, like USB audio processing, because that always adds a little delay, a little latency. And when you have latency on your own voice and hear that back, it's driving you crazy. You can't talk anymore.
Yeah, it's called speech jamming.
Yeah,
you can actually download or go to a website that has a speech jammer and test it out for yourself. It's hilarious to do. Just try to talk and have a conversation with somebody while you can hear your own voice in delay. It's
so bad.
It's not possible. You're going crazy there. But
we definitely talk about side tone a lot in the company, which is the technical name for that. We definitely talk about ways to implement side tone and how to do that. It's not easy. It is easy, but it's not easy to do without making things larger. That's the big issue. So it's always a space concern issue.
Interesting.
There is one way to get a mod mic wireless to have side tone, and I don't know how well it works, but what you need is, because the mod mic wireless operates with aptX low latency, all you need to do is buy a aptX low latency receiver that is 3.5 millimeter. Plug the 3.5 millimeter receiver into a mixer that accepts 3.5 millimeter mic input, such as the Behringer 302, and then turn on mic monitoring on the mixer. What you should be left with is a very low delay side tone.
Okay. Wow. So that doesn't work with the current receiver, even though it's well, it won't work with the current receiver because the current receiver is USB. Okay.
So there's no mixer in the world that, to my knowledge, that accepts USB mic input. If there is, it would work with that.
If they comply to the specs.
Right.
Yeah.
Which they would, if there's a USB mic input, they would have to.
Oh, that's cool.
But
that's cool.
Yeah. So in theory, this is possible. Of course, it costs, it's the mixer's $50. The receiver is going to be $25. It's kind of an insane method in order to get side tone, but it is theoretically possible. We'll say that theoretically possible. I've never tested this, by the way. Please, if somebody wants to test it, let me know. I would love to know whether or not my insane Frankenstein side tone works. The other, now that I think about it, though, the other flaw in that is that you'd have to have wired headphones.
Yeah, that's an issue. I mean, as I said, it only works in hardware. As soon as there's software in between, it's tricky. Yeah, cool. So there's no special compressor inside, and the capsule is doing all the magic for the good quality. Because what you can do is they have something like what I experienced is you can take this off and talk from the side and stuff, and it still sounds great. So it's not picking up that much audio that's coming from the other side. Where normally a microphone, at least from my knowledge or how I would see it, is like, yeah, how can it distinguish from which direction it should pick up audio and from which it shouldn't? So this is all done by the capsule, or how is that working?
Yeah, it's that capsule, the housing, that kind of thing. So it's ported on both sides. I mean, there's holes. If you pull off the foam thing, you can look at them. For a unidirectional mic, as I understand the technology and how it works, is it's listening to the opposite side of the microphone. You can think of it like that, and basically filtering out that signal and then listening to the front side of the microphone. For the omnidirectional mic, it is listening to all sides, but noise rejection is more about like your signal to noise ratio and your sort of sensitivity of the microphone. So as long as the microphone is at a certain level of sensitivity, it will do well with things that are near it and not as well with things that are far away from it. It's just the nature of that microphone. Noise itself drops off very quickly, which is kind of interesting. So like sound decreases in perceived volume very rapidly over distance. There's like a whole formula for it. Again, not an engineer, so I don't know the formula off the top of my head, but it involves cubing something or squaring something. So it's one of those logarithmic drops.
Mathematics.
There's some mathy things in there.
Yeah, but that's done in hardware. So it's like using two microphones, listening to the other side, and then subtracting that from the side you want to have the audio from, and then
it uses only one microphone. To be clear, this is just sort of the nature of how a unidirectional or a cardioid microphone works. Is as I understand it, it's not actually listening to that other side. It's just physics at work, right? So it's the way a microphone works is a diaphragm moves up and down, and that's what captures the sound.
Yeah,
and if there's also sound coming from the other direction, it's going to push against that in the other way, preventing it from moving, thus removing that sound entirely, or at least partially. Again, not an engineer. I could be totally wrong.
Sounds like
this is only what I've been told by other people.
Yeah, but
I have no firsthand experience.
I trust my engineers. Should I not trust my engineers?
They could be telling me that there are little gnomes in there that replicate your voice. I don't know.
It's tiny penguins, I thought.
That's all on Linux.
Oh, you're right.
Oh, yeah, I'm okay. Oh. Okay, cool. I didn't know that before. Again, something learned. Okay, cool. I mean, as the quality of the microphone is apparently very, very good, are you cooperating with other companies where they say, yeah, we want to have that quality of your microphone in our product? So for example, if there's a new VR headset coming and they are looking for a good microphone company there.
We're always open to working with other companies. We don't currently have any white labeled or co-branded products out there. We do occasionally do bundle deals with other companies. I hope we're working on one with Shit Audio. That will be.
Is that really how that's pronounced?
Yes. Yeah, it's a whole inside joke thing.
Shit Audio. I can't believe they actually went for it.
Yeah. We're hopefully going to do a bundle with them coming up soon. We've done the past. We've worked with Ultrasone and Dan Clark Audio. Both high-end headphone manufacturers, and just doing sort of bundled, buy a headphone, get a mod mic kind of thing.
Yeah. So you get your mod mic and be like, man, that sounds like shit. Yeah, thanks. Wait.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Maybe we should tell our listeners and viewers what about that name.
If you're not familiar, listeners, viewers, Shit Audio, they make like high-end amplifiers, digital audio interfaces, that kind of thing. That's SCHIT, I think. Two eyes.
Two eyes. Yeah, I think you're right.
Maybe it's she.
I had to look that up because I
company.
saw that when I was looking for other stuff. I forget. It came up in a search a couple weeks ago.
Yes, Two Eyes.
One of their headphones names is called Full as Shit. Oh, that's right. Their product names were fantastic.
Yeah.
I forgot about
You get the Fulla, et cetera, et cetera. It's all a joke.
So FeVR Edition Mod Mic Wireless when?
You guys can put it in a minimum order, and we get those manufacturers rolling. Don't worry about it. Just get some pre-orders.
Cool. Okay.
We talk about that pretty often too. Colors, limited edition colors, doing that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Our fear is always that we're going to be left with like 500 orange microphones that we're never going to be able to get rid of.
I don't know, with the 90s style coming back right now, orange and neon green.
This is what I mean, though. By the time we actually do it and pull the trigger, who knows what the hot color will be?
Oh, true. Very true.
I would take an orange one if you have to get rid of them. Oh, well, okay. What I'm also interested in is, as you mentioned it before, you are relying a little bit on word by mouth advertisement. And you're working together with streamers. So, with how many streamers are you working together? Do you have
they're a part of the quote unquote official stream team? There must be about 40 or 50, maybe even 60 by now.
Okay,
growing steadily. And we try to add as many as James can in a month. As many as
one person can manage.
Yeah. James is our stream team manager. He's the guy that onboarded you guys. And does a great job. And he's got the time he dedicates to helping out people who we have existing relationships with, and any free time he uses to try to find new people. And where you're at about 1 to 5 people a month, depending on that sort of busyness.
Mm-hmm. We'll have to drag him in once that whatever that K thing is appears and get you both.
Absolutely. I'm sure we can convince him to wake up this early. Not.
Yeah, I have a hard time getting a hold of him before 2 my time.
All right on.
For those people who don't know, it was 5:30 in the morning when I joined these guys. So.
It's Joe's an amazing person just for waking up this early in order to chat with us nerds about VR and audio stuff. So thank you so much for joining us.
Another question regarding the Twitch or reaching out to streamers. Do you have numbers about the conversion rate? So how many viewers that are coming through streamers that have been watching where you are working together with are getting mod mics then? Well,
we have tracking URLs that are included on, we ask that you put up a link and we send a URL that we can track traffic from. But it's not really super reliable. It's the nightmare of my job is trying to figure these things out, because one, most people don't click on those little links, right? They'll hear about the product. They might go Google it separately, but there's no way for me to tie those two events together. And then the second is, if you go and buy it, the odds are you don't buy it directly from us. If you're international, there's plenty of local retailers, especially in Europe, but in many other countries as well. So you might buy it from them. You might buy it from Amazon. You might buy it from any number of our distribution partners. So we have pretty good distribution and a pretty good distribution network, but most of our sales don't come through us directly. So there's no way for me to know if somebody buys something from Amazon after seeing it on your channel or on somebody else's channel. There's just no way for me to tie these events together. So my boss is always asking me, so how are we doing with these things?
Tricky question. Please, next question.
Yeah, but we don't have a project registration page or anything though, do you?
No.
Card or anything.
Does anybody ever fill those things out? Be honest.
Well, I mean, they usually have that information on them, so it might be a way to gain some more information in that regard. I'm just
asking. Anybody here in this room right now ever filled out a warranty card?
I have,
but not for the mod mic.
I have. So yeah, for my Klipsch
There's one for
5.1
them.
Ultras, my Klipsch 5.1 Ultras, if I hadn't, I wouldn't have gotten them RMA'd right in the last week that they were still under warranty.
So
Then I feel like the lazy one.
I mean, it's a valid way to gain data. I mean, obviously, you're not going to grab everyone, but it'll get you more data.
The problem is, how do you even make the initial assumption of what is the conversion rate of our, let's say, warranty card, right? What is our conversion rate of that to total customers? Even that number alone is basically impossible to get.
I mean, yeah, I suppose.
Is it 1 out of 10
you'd
people?
Have your, right,
1 out of 100?
You have your group of retail, and you have your group of online. So it's really, yeah. I mean, it's more data, at least.
Yeah. More data isn't always better. Generally, my methodology, this is probably a terrible way to do business, but is to go by gut instinct. Are they representing our products well? Meaning, not that they're lying about them, but that they, speak about them honestly and openly. Are you attaching 2 of them to yourself now?
I feel like I'm slowly just going to grow more microphones as this goes on, and it's just going to cover everything.
And the other is, are they providing enough eyeballs on something for whatever it is that we pay them, or in cash or product or whatever it is? Even to the extent of in my time, right? So is it worth my time to be on this podcast? Of course it is. I love you guys.
We love you too, Joe.
Because you meet the requirements of both reaching people and honest to talk about the product, and also that my time is basically worthless. So,
well, that I don't think is true.
Nah. we have
me, if it was worth
questions.
something, I would not be here at 5:30 a.m. on a Sunday.
Well, we appreciate you spending it with us and talking about all this nerdy stuff. It's really great having you on.
We even have questions from chat that I can pass on now. So,
Excellent. What do we have?
Gordikex wants to know about the quality of the Mod Mic USB versus wireless. Is it similar? Is one better than the other?
I think our USB mic actually does sound the best out of our 3 mics. With an asterisk. The asterisk in this case being the Uni in Uni mode and the USB in Uni mode sound the same if and only if your analog lines are absolutely clean. Most people's analog lines are not clean. This comes back to that thing I mentioned earlier where 3.5 millimeter is just finicky. It's very finicky.
Oh, yeah.
And USB isn't. In a perfect world, analog is always better. But the world isn't perfect, so analog is rarely better than USB. Again, 3.5 millimeter unbalanced audio. Anyway, so the USB, I think it sounds slightly better than the wireless. The tech inside the USB is almost identical to the wireless. It uses a different audio, an ADC chip, but otherwise it's all the same. It's all the same capsules. It's all the same, basically the same wiring. But you do lose a little bit of sort of the fullness of the audio in wireless mode, and you get that in the USB mode. And it is honestly only perceptible if you listen to them side by side.
Yeah, I mean, you can trick the human ear a lot. It just can hear, yeah, it's bad or it's good. But if you have 2 good audio sources, then it's a little bit tricky, I guess.
Yeah. That's what you need in order to hear the difference. But yeah, USB by a nose, whether or not that's worth having an extra wire comes down to how much you hate batteries and how much you hate wires.
You hate batteries and wires, yes.
So if people are buying now mod mics, what do you see? Are they buying more? Is it wireless or the wired one?
Wired outsells wireless, especially since there are 2 models of the wired.
Okay.
Wireless is actually our lowest seller. There's a few interesting facts about it. I wouldn't say actually, well, the wireless isn't the lowest seller. Let me rephrase that. It's sort of neck and neck with the USB. But the Uni actually outsells everything still, the sort of the base model product. I think that has mostly to do with price. And to some degree, universal compatibility. The Uni is the better mic if you're going to do console gaming, in my opinion, because you can just plug it right into your controller. It's in that sense kind of wireless, and it's much easier to swap that into a PC when you're done. Well, I mean, it's about equal to the wireless. And then the USB products don't work on Xbox because Microsoft.
That's Microsoft. What you doing?
So Microsoft has a USB security key. That's a physical security key for all USB audio.
Yeah.
In order to get that key, you have to purchase it from Microsoft and license the technology to do so. I can't talk about it too much because there are rules about these things, but I can say that it's prohibitively expensive to do.
I guess so. Yeah, that's how they make their money, selling licenses.
Which is, it kills me because Microsoft built its company on the idea of an open platform. And then they make a console and
Nintendo.
I know, you look at the Linux guy, just so
No, I'm totally fine with the Mac. I'm totally fine with Mac because I
built it as a hardware agnostic platform, Windows.
Yeah. I mean, I pay for software as well. I have no problem with paying for software. I pay for my games. I pay for all of them. It's all closed source. But yeah, you're right. It's built on an open platform that's meant to be open.
A hardware agnostic platform was the concept for Windows instead of the walled garden like Apple.
But they see that Apple is doing a lot of money with that way.
They don't do that on console. Like, why? Why is Sony the one with the open hardware platform?
Yeah. It seems like a lot of companies are starting to go to cloud platforms too, which is kind of weird.
That's a great segue, man.
Data server chunks, and I was digging for it, Corbin. I was digging.
You reached for that one a little bit.
But like, I realized it's related enough, though, right? So we're looking at cloud services like OnLive, Stadia has come up more recently, and I guess I was talking with Joe a little bit about another one that I hadn't even heard of, Shadow. And Joe, why don't you fill us in on some of that? Because I think you're a little bit more informed than we are. I did a little. I
mean, the short version is Shadow, which is like their technology is called Blade, I believe. The short version of the news is that they have declared bankruptcy, which is the first of what is, well, actually not first. OnLive was first, but the first of many recent deaths of sort of cloud gaming.
Yeah, go on.
I was going to say, and for those who are not in the know, the idea of cloud gaming is simply this, right? Why have the graphics card and all the CPU work handled locally when you could just have a server farm do it and have economy of scale? You have the server farm pump out, physically playing the game, so to speak, and then just streaming that data to your screen, to your, and then you take your input device and you send that back out.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to change. I think the idea of this is going to change the way we do a lot of things, and it specifically is going to impact VR in the near-ish future. But it's the big important thing about Shadow is that it shows sort of that the tech isn't really there. What Shadow did that was kind of interesting was it gave you a dedicated server, right? So you were basically renting space on a server to play games.
Not only space, but really a dedicated piece of hardware. You rent a complete server, yeah. But the bankruptcy, wasn't that they were like victims of their own success? They could not keep up with the demand or so? I read that.
Yeah, it's a little unclear to me what went wrong with their model. I think it may have been a case of losing money on every sale.
Yeah, something like
that. In order to grow.
I know if a buddy of mine is using Shadow, so I'm not against cloud gaming. I think it's a very interesting piece of technology, even though it's the ultimate form of digital rights management. You have no control anymore at all. But especially for me as a Linux user, I have the issue that some things aren't working for me. And if they are supported on streaming services, be it Stadia, for example, Outriders does have Easy Anti-Cheat implemented, but it does have a version on Stadia. Stadia is Linux-based, so I prefer that. But the demo, for example, because I played just yesterday, we played the Outriders demo as well, but I used GeForce Now as a streaming service for that, where it's also, it's not that you're renting their server, but it's like with Stadia, you get a container or an instance where that game is being rendered and then streamed to you. It's a very limited Steam or whatever client. So GeForce Now is working with Epic, with Uplay, I guess, and with Steam for sure. Battle.net is not there anymore, but the advantage of GeForce Now is like you own the game. You own the game yourself, and you can play it on your local PC if you want to, but you can also use that streaming service. So GeForce Now has a little advantage because you still have the game or the license for the game for yourself and can use it anywhere you like. On Stadia, it's a little bit different because there you buy the game on Stadia, and Stadia is like an online console. So you buy the game on Stadia, and if Stadia shuts down, the game is gone. You're not able to play that anywhere. You're buying the rights
to use the game on their service. You're not buying the game.
And
there's a lot of ways that the streamed content can go. Like and things are probably going to change before it reaches its final form. So it's hard to say like what it's going to look like in 5 or 10 years.
And the data consideration and the latency that you have to deal with in that. Like when I first tried OnLive, like back when OnLive first started, and they had that like 1 month trial period, I was blown away at how fast it was. The video quality was good. I was just using my Xbox 360 controller at the time, and the response on the input felt like it was instantaneous. Like it blew my mind that the latency was somewhere between 0 and 30. Like it couldn't have been any faster than that, because I was doing flick movements with my thumbs just to test it, and it was super on point. And with VR, you're pushing twice as much video data. You're pushing 3 times as much positional data, essentially. Then you've got your button array at the same time. But when it comes down to it, that's just a really small array of data. And so I have some really high hope for how this is going to pan out in the future for cloud-based VR.
So for VR, there are huge advantages. This is where the technology is going to explode for both VR and streamed content. I see them as two. I like to think of them as two trains that are heading towards each other and slightly, like just slow. No, they're not coming together head to head. They're just kind of slowly approaching. But what they, so VR, the big thing is that what is an acceptable input delay on a controller with a flat screen is not acceptable in VR.
Yeah.
You have to be much tighter with things.
You can see that already. I mean, that's what I think that was also talked about on the Steam Dev Days, because wasn't that where they were talking about the Steam Universe thingy and Steam VR and stuff? It was like, how can they manage to have everything moving smooth? The game might stutter or so, but you need to be able to move your head smoothly. If that's lagging, you'll get totally been torn out of the immersion, you'll get motion sick and whatever. So if the game has issues itself, so like characters are moving a little bit stuttery or so, that can be accepted. But if you move your head, that tracking has to be on point. And
it has to be super fast.
And if you are like running 90 hertz on your display, you have a latency of 11 milliseconds or so. And I have the advantage to have a fiber connection. And when I'm playing on Stadia, where I have an overlay that shows me the latency to the next Google server, that's like 4 milliseconds. But that's just the direct connection, I guess. And there's a jitter buffer. And that's about 30 milliseconds, 25 to 30, which is not enough for doing VR, I guess. So especially... Not yet. And especially if you go...
about as rough as wireless right now.
Yeah, especially if you go for higher frame rates, like 120 hertz. That's 8 milliseconds or so? So depending, because you want to have more visual fidelity and stuff, so higher frame rates are appreciated and people want that, and higher field of view and whatever. But if the technology, especially latency-wise, cannot keep up with that yet, it's not possible to do it right now. But as Joe said, they're approaching slowly but steadily.
The big advantage for VR with this is that your VR helmet at that point only needs a small processor and 2 screens, which means lighter weight, better battery. Basically everything will get smaller and easier and more comfortable and last longer. Because all you're doing is then strapping two televisions to your face.
Yeah.
It's just chewing through frames and sending positional and button data. Let's keep it simple.
That's where it's going to blow it wide open. Is suddenly you'll just be able to access this huge catalog of content. Remember, there's no install times, right? There's no data buffering on your side, or it happens on the server side. You just be like, I want to be in this, I want to be in VR chat right now. Click, you're in VR chat. It's instantaneous or close to it. The server farms should be more efficient in theory. They should be running higher end hardware than you'd have at home. In theory, all this stuff should come together to make VR so much better than it is right now. And we'll look back on these clunky headsets and just be like, what a bunch of morons we were.
Well, what I think is funny is how well the CV1 has held up, even against the current index. Like not display wise, but just like tracking technology and all that. We're not moving on technologies as fast as we were when the big VR boom started to happen.
I think that was a lot of pent up R&D though that we saw come out all at once, right?
A lot of pent up R&D. I like that phrase. It was just we had so much R&D we were just ready to burst.
Yeah, I think that's what you had really at that. Is that where the heyday?
Right now, you just have so much R&D, it's just going to explode.
I think there's been pretty big changes though in VR. In particular, the Oculus cameras as opposed to the Lighthouse design.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a huge change. Being able to get away from having to set up a room. And just being able to, from the physical standpoint of like, I've got to like drill holes in my ceiling and,
Yeah, I've got kind of a beef against the Lighthouse system just because of its mean time between failures. In my experience, isn't nearly what it should be. But
I guess you just said bad luck there. I still have my first version.
A lot of people have though.
Like, well, I'm just a lucky guy. Maybe it's Linux. Well,
it's Linux. It's always Linux. All I'm saying is that camera technology, that room tracking technology built into the headset is a big change. It doesn't look like a big change.
For sure.
Yeah.
There are things.
The limitations on it are but like I was
as long as they keep making terrible microphones, I'm happy.
Yeah, so just keep putting, or we just start putting mod mics in them. But the Quest 2, after I got it, I was actually blown away at how well it tracks or how well it predicts off view tracking. So if you do one of these behind your head, start doing back shots and whatnot, it'll continue tracking you for a good second and a half, and it'll be as close enough to accurate as it can be without seeing your motions. But then if you like leave the controller behind your back, it's like, oh, I can't see the controller. But it's still tracking like the IMU data and everything in there. So I think it's really great what they've been able to accomplish with that technology on top of the outside in camera tracking that we started with.
Yeah, we will see where that leads. And if we get, as I said, streaming services aren't that bad as their reputation might be. And it's like, you just need to get used to it. Also, I think it will never like completely replace local PC gaming. There will always be something like that. Because especially for the modding community, the modding community would completely die out. And I think there's too much enthusiasm in those modders that will happen.
Yeah. I'll conversely, I think there's a certain aspect of, I'm just going to say the word laziness. I don't really mean laziness, but like not complacency. Some word that you can think of that doesn't sound insulting in this regard, but like an element of that flat gaming offers, you can kind of relax while you're gaming. While in VR, for the most part, most games you don't want to play seated unless it's just plain more comfortable for you to do that. Like if you have, bad knees or some kind of, ailments that don't allow you to stand up the whole time. But the flat aspect being, you can sit down, chill, relax. Well, okay, racing games are definitely an exception in that regard. And
Yeah,
I think
simulation
if you have a
games in
full
general.
simulator, yeah, if you get a full simulator at that point, that's a little bit different category than a flat game, I think, because then you're in a simulator instead of sitting at a PC desk or using just a controller in front of a screen.
People call console gaming couch co-op or couch gaming sometimes. But
Yeah,
it's funny because I sit down playing computer games, but I stand up playing console games. Maybe I'm the only one. I don't know. Yeah, I can't be seated. I get too into it.
You're the guys. One of the guys when playing racing games, putting the controller to there, it's making it steer better to that side.
No. It's more about I gotta be close. The couch is a little too far away. I gotta be in there.
Yeah. Okay. I see.
Take your fighting stance.
I've given up my Nintendo Sway when I was a little kid.
Just you
jump,
into
Mario.
the game,
Jump.
into your fighting position.
Oh, yeah.
So I remember a long time ago, it was like one of those funny video shows that people could submit to. There's this one where this kid was playing Nintendo, and every time he'd hit Mario's jump button, his tongue would stick out.
Yeah, sometimes you need to put some emphasis into your movements, into your actions you want to see on screen.
Absolutely. I don't know how. Here, should we segue? Instantly, boom, cut segue. NFT as it relates to DRM, since we were talking about that earlier.
Yeah, tell me about everything NFT, because I have no idea about
NFT stands for non-fungible token.
Yeah, who knows what fungible means?
What is it used for?
You can't funge it.
Yeah, it's for not funging, man.
Yeah, just make sure you don't funge the thing.
Those Germans and not knowing every word. Okay, let me translate that.
I don't know what fungible.
Yeah. Let us know what it means too.
I don't know what it means either. But that's what we just know what the acronym means. It's a non-fungible token, and it relates very directly somehow to the blockchain, which of course is a cryptocurrency, the basis of cryptocurrency. So what was it we were talking about briefly before we started the cast a little bit? So since NFTs, people have been selling art associated with NFTs.
So all right, well, maybe we should go back to the basics of like what is an NFT other than stand for and what does fungible mean. So it gives you, in theory, the ability to purchase a piece of digital medium and be the only owner of that, like the sole rights owner. It doesn't mean that you if you buy a JPEG, for instance, you could be like, this is my JPEG. You could give it to other people and they could display it on their wallpaper or print it out. But when it comes down to it, if it went to a court of law, you could say that's my piece of artwork, right? Even if you weren't the creator of it, if you purchased the NFT for it, you just have the rights to it, the full rights potentially.
So that's essentially your certificate of authenticity, basically.
Yeah, basically. I think that's the best way to think about it. Yeah.
Okay.
This thing, and not just your certificate of authenticity, not only authentic, but also, and it's mine. This proves that I own it.
Distinct, absolutely distinct.
And of course, where this dovetails into DRM is with that, you could potentially show ownership of a game. So when we were talking about the whole cloud-based computing conundrum of who owns the game that I just purchased, if they're using NFTs, you could be like, this game is mine. I let the server have it so it can play it, but at the end of the day, I can download it and keep it forever. It's my game, and it's connected to my account. This is, and it would be, in theory, you could even DRM lock it, right? And say, all right, this is a security thing. This is mine and mine only. I need to show the certificate of authenticity, the NFT, in order to install the game. Of course, that means if you lose the NFT, you lose the game. But
well, if you lose the key, you lose the.
That's the same as if you own a CD, right? So
or CD, yeah.
Yeah, you took it a little too far there.
Yeah,
you lose your house, you go to a locksmith, man.
It's gone. Somebody else has it.
Fallout 2, you go buy a new copy of Fallout 2.
Somebody else has the key to your house, and he lives there.
It's the original. I need that one.
No, I know what you mean.
But I think we'll see NFTs in games sooner than most people expect. I think that it's a thing that's the big players have got to be paying attention to. Somebody is going to launch a platform. If they don't, that will use NFTs for game purchasing.
But the interesting thing will be how that will be how they will use it, because at the moment what's happening is we have those different stores like Steam, Epic, Origin, Uplay, GOG, and I'm only aware of GOG who says, yeah, if you have the game, for example on Steam, you'll get it also unlocked on our store. So you own the game. But with those NFTs, it could be possible that you say, okay, I have the game, and where I installed it from, that's my decision. But will they do that? Because that's not how they make the money. They make the money because you buy it on their store.
It comes down to whether or not it makes the most sense for somewhere like Valve to allow that kind of thing, because what they want and what oh crap, Unreal, was it? Just spent Epic? Yeah, it was Epic. You're right. Epic just spent $300 billion doing is giving out free games to attract users, right? If doing this gets Valve to keep users on the Steam platform for longer and use that as their primary platform and not migrate to Epic or other stores, then it's totally worth doing, even though they don't make any money on it directly.
Okay.
It's about user retention, and it's about building the best platform. And that's exactly why I still use Steam for almost everything I do. I've got the Amazon game app. I've got the Epic Game Store. I've got the Origin Game Store, but I almost never boot them up. I almost never turn them on. And that's because their platforms don't offer me anything other than occasionally a free game that I want. Yeah. And so Valve would be remiss not to get on board on this if it becomes a thing, and I do expect it to.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There was one little caveat that someone tweeted about a couple of days ago. I don't remember if it was yesterday or the day before, but essentially they said, okay, if I have like $2,000 worth of Ethereum and I have an NFT, I can sell it to myself for however much Ethereum I have. So that goes on the blockchain, and then I can sell it for however much that is and then make that much over it. But I can sell it at a discount from what I sold it to myself for. So you're getting 90% off. And that's kind of a goofy caveat, I think. If you can literally sell it to yourself to value it, that way it's on the blockchain. It says it's worth that much because you sold it for that much. That can never go away. That's always going to be there because it's part of the blockchain.
Yeah, I don't really know how
it's just
the economics of this whole thing is going to shake out as far as transferring assets and valuing assets. It's an interesting, somewhat awkward conundrum. But your house has the same thing too, right? If you sell your house for $50,000, right? Mm-hmm. It's permanently listed as having been sold for $50,000, and future valuations are going to be based on that amount.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you
could artificially raise the value of your home by buying your home from yourself, essentially. I think there might be laws or something against doing that.
There might be laws against doing that, but if you can convince somebody else to do it and go in cahoots, maybe you could convince somebody that your house is worth 10, 20, 30% more than it really is. There's some limitation on that. You can't just invent an insane number and just expect people to accept it, but you can probably set a precedent. It's called, in statistics, it's called anchoring. It's why you don't ask a group of people all at once to rate something, because the first person who replies, everybody will anchor their response based on that. So if you say, how much do you guys like the Mod Mic? And Cypher says 10 out of 10, Corbin's more likely to say something close to 10.
Hello? 11 out of 10.
Something close.
Yeah, indeed. Okay.
You anchored yourself into that area. You could have said 100 out of 10. But you anchored yourself based on the 10 out of 10 example. Mm-hmm. It's a perfect moment.
I have it at 20. Exactly.
So anyway, I don't have no idea how NFT is going to
it's an interesting thing.
To this.
It's going to be crazy. It's going to be really crazy.
Yeah, it's the first time I hear about that, really. I heard the abbreviation, but not what it's being used for.
I don't know. It's either going to be something that we joke about in 2022 as like, remember NFTs, or it will become like a dominant way to prove digital ownership.
Right. Watch in 20 years, we're all dealing in Dogecoin and nobody saw that coming. Like, wait.
I got my Doge wallet.
Your Doge. I have a physical Dogecoin around here somewhere.
I would say the other thing to consider with this is the risk it creates. There's this concept that blockchain is absolutely 100% secure. And I don't know that will always be true. And that's, I think, terrifies me. Like if somehow, some way, blockchain is compromised, then all the things connected to that that piece of blockchain technology are all compromised, and you can't fix them because it's all a black box of, like how do you unhack something that is designed to be permanent?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a little terrifying.
Sketchy prospect. Really sketchy prospect.
Technology has always been terrifying. Also, software technology can be.
But I think the risk is pretty low for a game catalog, right? Being able to say, look, I own. How many games do I own on Steam? Too many.
Yeah, don't underestimate that. So the bigger your catalog gets on a certain platform, I mean, you get a bondage to that. Those are your games. The games are yours. You want to keep them. Those games are mine. I don't want to lose that.
Are they though? That's the real question. Are they your games?
Yeah, not really. I mean, you have the Valve is treating it like that. So if there is something, for example, what happens from time to time is that the game is being delisted in the store. But if you bought it before, you can still play it. And you can still download it, and everything will more or less work like it used to be before, even though you cannot buy the game anymore.
Yeah, you can't. It's so weird that they do that.
Yeah, sometimes it's a license issue, but they don't retract the license that you are allowed to play the game.
So here's a mystery question. I don't think it's come up yet, but if a developer demands that all existing copies be purged from your library,
I think that gets into a weird legal battle.
Is it something? Well, maybe there might be a reason for it though. Or there might be a security reason for it, or.
I can say. I mean, if there's like
legally speaking, is Valve able to do that? Is that something they can legally do? Can they choose what games you actually own? Do you own those games?
Do we have any game lawyers in the audience?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I do know the game lawyer though, so I can always ask.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough.
Gaglia.
I can imagine that if there is a reason to retract it because it's against world law or something like that, that technically they can do that for sure. And legally, if there is a law that allows that to do that, then it's possible, I guess.
I don't know what's in the license agreement that you signed when you signed up for Steam, because I, like everybody else in the universe, didn't read it.
I think I read
so I have no idea what's in there.
But as far as I know, is that you just own the right to play the game, but you don't own the game physically or so. And that's what.
If that is the case, then they can at any point just say, "You don't own this game anymore. Sorry, bye."
Yeah, I think that's even possible.
Brain. A game lawyer is not someone playing a lawyer.
We should totally not get
Ace Attorney?
That dark hole. Let's hope that this will never happen.
Someday, I don't know when it will be, but someday, Valve will shut down Steam, and all your games will go away. It might be 100 years from now. It might be 1,000 years from now. It might be tomorrow. There's absolutely no way to know, but it will happen.
So make sure you play those 200 titles that you haven't touched since you bought them because the Steam sale said you should now.
So
hey, those came from the Humble Bundle.
So as Kizek mentions in chat, we know that game devs can revoke blocks of game keys, and Valve has a platform that honors that. So I had that as well. If they hand out, for example, beta keys, and the beta is ended, then they can revoke all those beta keys. That works.
Yeah.
But if mostly those beta keys are not bought with money, they are handed out for free for beta testing mostly, that is. But if you buy something, you paid money for that, maybe that's a little bit different then. But the platform can revoke those keys for sure, or those licenses.
Yeah, there's definitely the technology to remove keys. we've definitely had to use that, for instance, when keys have been leaked out to unauthorized users. So we've had that problem before, where somebody got their hands on a couple hundred keys and were trying to sell them, claiming that they were legit keys, which, I mean, they were functional keys, at least until we found out about it. And then, we revoked all those keys, thus screwing a whole bunch of people out of the game they thought they purchased from the shady third-party site that won't be named.
Would you call those fungible keys then?
They were very fungible.
It must have been fungible.
The problem with that is it depends though, because I heard about those issues as well, where a bunch of keys have been bought with faked credit cards and stuff, and sold on a different platform. People have been buying those keys and playing the games, and then the company is like in a dilemma. Shall they revoke all those keys and make all the customers unhappy, or what shall they do? So I think it depends on the amount of keys.
Well, I've had to be in the hot seat of this position once before, only once, thank God. And I've certainly worked with people who have been in that position before. And from the marketing perspective, from the evil marketing PR perspective, the question is simply this: how much publicity can I get out of this incident if I take the high road and let everybody keep playing, versus just pull it all and don't say anything to anybody? You send out a message to all the people who purchased it through the Steam platform, and you explain the situation. And, maybe you give a customer service email, and then say nothing publicly beyond that. Versus you go big, you go out there and you bang the pots and pans and say, oh, somebody has screwed us. We are the victim here, but look how nice we are. We will let these players keep playing because we appreciate their fandom of our game. Yada, yada, yada. It's there's no such thing as an angelic business, Well,
I can think of kind of a controversial example that happened recently. Actually, that's kind of similar to that. A game made by this guy named, I forget his last name, but Richard makes Super Seducer 3. The only reason I know about this is because
I know the story you're heading towards.
One of our fellow streamers, Zakookies, actually landed a role in this game. And she played the toned down version of the game live on stream, as she was allowed to, through their agreements and everything. But for some reason, Steam, after they finalized everything and they spent a whole lot of time and money and effort making a censored version of the game so that it was available for people to play on Steam without breaking any of their rules or anything. And they've run into this really weird back and forth with Steam where the game was just straight up removed from the Steam store. Which also kind of brings up the fact that, does Steam then revoke all keys from everybody just because they don't want it on the store? Because some people paid for early access for this game. Some people have access to the game because, they're helping promote it and those kind of things. So, how do you deal with that? Notwithstanding all of the ethical concerns that they're in this weird miresome, conundrum of conversation going, okay, well, you can't do this and this, and then they're going, but these games do it, so why aren't they getting knocked off the store? Or it's a lot of it has to do with showing nudity or being just sexual acts and things like that. And I'm not saying it's a game for everybody, or it's even a game that I would be interested in playing myself, but just those kind of dilemmas that get thrown in there. And then you also have, what do we do for our users? Do we just revoke everybody? What happens there? So it's kind of a recent example.
It's an unenviable position they are in as a development studio. I'll say that for sure. On the plus side, more people know about their game than I expect would have otherwise.
I mean, it's definitely giving them some publicity.
If they're on their toes, they could probably do pretty well by this sort of disaster. But if they weren't ready for this, if they didn't have a plan of action, to capitalize on this publicity, to find a way to get the game out through another platform, whatever it is, to make a partnership with Pornhub or whoever it is
whatever it is they want to do with that. And I'm not saying that this is a kosher or family friendly game by any stretch of the imagination.
It is not.
It is a I would label it a satire dating game. I wouldn't take any of it seriously. There's some offensive stuff in it, so it's kind of sexist also. In that you are playing a male character, and there are very sexist options to what you say. There are very non-sexist options, and it really kind of explores the dynamics of dating in a really weird way. But that's all I want to say about it, just because it was kind of relevant to part of that conversation.
I've seen it.
Yeah, I don't know what happens to
So I don't want to go too far on that.
I think the developer of the game,
real life example.
What's his name again? I can't remember.
Richard.
Richard, yeah. Laruna?
Yeah, Richard. Something
like that. There was a conversation where he was really trying to get the game back on Steam, and he said, "Yeah, whatever you need me to do, I will change it in the game."
Yeah,
but Steam was like, "No."
Nope. So we don't want your game on our platform.
With Valve, having worked with them pretty closely over the years, has always been. It's both their strength and their weakness, which is their decentralized methodology. So for those of you who don't know, and this is only true on paper, but there's no hierarchy at Valve. There is a hierarchy, but it's all sort of tacitly understood once you're there. It's pretty weird. But there's no I'm the boss. There's a project lead who will be assigned to something, but he's not necessarily the boss of the guy below him. It's a mess. And as a result, there's usually no leadership on issues like this. So it's what's the Valve policy exactly for what is and is not allowed?
It depends on the project manager who's taking care of it right now.
Yeah, it just depends on who's looking at it today. And another example of that is back in the old days, before you could just put a game on Steam, you had to go through an approval process. It was a curated list. And it was surprising to learn, who's in charge of that? The answer is nobody. Which is why they went to the non-curated method we have today. Who was in charge of it was both nobody and everybody. The way I got games onto Steam is I'd drive up to Seattle, I'd have a meeting at Valve HQ, I would sit down with one or two people I knew at Valve, and I would pitch them the game, and they would say yes or no. And it didn't. I could have pitched it to potentially anybody at the company, and they could have approved the game. That's the weird part. Sort of. And I say that, but it's not really true. 5 people that really would. The other people just wouldn't accept meetings.
Joe's not saying take your $1 million game idea, walk into the front door of Valve, and tell the first person you see about it.
Well, you don't have to anymore, because you can just put it on Steam, and it's totally. And the quality of games on Steam, since they removed the curated system, let's say, is on average gone down.
Yes. I liked that. I like the curated thing, because you can go through okay, this looks cool. This looks cool. What is this? That's Sanic. Get out of here.
I mean, my problem with there used to be a really handy thing on Steam, which is the up and coming games list, which is still there, right? Coming soon or whatever it's called. They existed back then too, but it would actually tell you here's this game, here's when it's coming out. It was actually a launch list of new titles that were coming. You could actually get excited about. Now you look at that list, I don't understand even how it's generated anymore.
Yeah, they have now some algorithms in place that take care about all those games that are hopefully not interested or interesting enough for the people, and they vanish in the sheer amount of other bad games, and only the good ones will pop up and be advertised on the store page, and that's all done with algorithms, I think, in the meantime.
Yeah, I've been against this model since the start. I actually, representing multiple developers, went to Valve to argue against this change long before it happened. When Greenlight was in beta testing, I made the pitch to them not to move to this platform because it would harm indie developers. Not to move to this everybody can do it platform. And they're like, how can opening it up to more developers harm indie developers? And I had to explain this is for an indie developer to get onto Steam at that time. This was their shot to make it big, right? And the only reason that they had that shot is because there weren't so many game launches. And so it gave them a lot of visibility towards the game. And the cream would always rise, right? You'd still have that rising. But because there were so few games and it was curated, people trusted that, this was going to be an interesting, good experience.
Yeah.
And for the most part, it was. A lot of the best sort of high, the indie games that made indie game studios popular was in that time period. Like Clay Entertainment was a client of mine. Wadget Eye Games was a client of mine who make like point and click RPGs. There were tons and tons of these developers. Spiderweb Software, who also makes CRPGs, very old school stuff. Mm-hmm. Tons of these developers who either were on the cusp of making it big or were always sort of around as indies, but had never had the spotlight shone on them. It gave them a real chance to like be seen. And that all went away when anybody can publish a game. Now it's just like this daily grind of who's on the top of the new list.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of lists,
it is much harder today as an indie developer.
Never heard of. Have you heard of the FeVR Awards? We have this nominations thing going on right now.
Tell me about it.
It's lasting for another week, I guess. Oh, less than a week. So
yeah,
next
we have another week
Saturday.
Nominations. We've got a few responses, and I know we're asking a lot of people right now. But the FeVR Awards are going to be, I say going to be because we're trying to organize our first one, our yearly awards show / ceremony / thing. That we wanted to involve as many communities as we possibly can in the VR sector and gaming in general to participate in. And so we need help finding nominees. Those are the people who can be voted on to win. So like, let's say you really like Antlion and you think Antlion's an amazing company and there happens to be a category like best, most amazing company I've ever seen. It's not right now, but just as an abstract example. So you can go nominate Antlion. And then let's say you like Corsair too. You'd be like, I like Corsair too. And then we got this. I mean, this is mostly centric around like streamers and virtual reality, though. So those are really bad examples. But we need help finding out who it is that you want to vote on to win these things. So we got a whole bunch of categories like best streamer, best mixed reality streamer, avatar streamers, best game, best new game, best game that should be in VR, all those kind of things. So if you can take like 20 minutes, go to fevr.gg/awards. Please fill out the nominations form with as many suggestions as you possibly can. Tell all your friends, tell all your favorite communities. We got about a week left on our nominations, and then we're going to start the voting. We're going to have about a month of voting. And at the end of that, on May 22nd, we have a big show that's planned, and we're still working on some of the details of that. And if I'm not mistaken, Antlion is one of our sponsors for that as well. We've been talking with
that's a James.
Yes, I've talked with you just a little bit. I know it's more James, but yeah, we've got Antlion's on board with the award ceremony as well. It should be a really good time. We're going to have a lot of live content, pre-recorded content, a crazy raid train that we're planning on doing all across Twitch to get this thing going. So don't miss it. It'll be a great time, and be sure to vote.
Yeah, and where can you do that? fevr.gg/awards.
fevr.gg/awards.
Go to that webpage, and everybody is welcome to nominate anybody and anything, any game that you're excited about. Please do. I
like the category for best faceplate decoration.
Best faceplate decoration? Yeah, that's one of the. That was one of them.
It gets real narrow in there sometimes.
Some of them are kind of specific. Yeah, well, I think we threw that one in there because the prevalence of the HTC or not HTC, the Vive Index with this little plate that comes off. So you can decorate that with whatever you want. You can put like lighting inside of it on the little frunk USB panel thing. So we just, I'm sure that, the reason that we wanted to reach out to all the communities for nominations is because we don't want this to just be the FeVR Awards. Like it's the FeVR Awards. Like we're just hosting it. We want it to be VR stuff, everybody. So we need to know about people that we don't know about. So please tell everybody, please go do nominations for it so that we can make this big and awesome and fun.
Yeah, it will
small
be
and awesome and fun's cool, but big and awesome and fun's better.
It will be open for another 6 days, so the voting will close on 24th of April, if I'm correct. So you still have 6 days from this live recording on to get your nominees in. Yeah, right on.
You have all the rest of today, since this weekend is going so slowly.
Mm-hmm. Right on. I think we've talked about all the topics we wanted to talk about. So, Cypher, thank you so much for co-hosting. And very, very much thank you to our special guest, Antlion Joe.
Yeah, thank you once again for waking up ridiculously early to attend
just
this
for
with
us. That was
I'm
awesome.
going back to bed.
Thank you so much.
Oh, okay. Then we won't hinder you any longer, so you can get some nice sleep again. Yeah, guys, that has been.
Is there anything you wanted to shout out, Joe, or any project?
Come visit us, antlionaudio.com. Follow us on Twitter at antlionaudio. I don't know.
Sign up for the newsletter.
Sign up for a newsletter. Buy a mod mic. Tell your friends to buy a mod mic.
Most of the
tell their friends to buy a mod mic.
Yeah,
everybody buy a mod mic, and whatever this Special K product
will be in the future.
It's all connected to Special K, the cereal.
Mod mic Special K.
Just make sure, if you are going to buy a mod mic, click any of our Team FeVR members' Twitch page and click that Antlion link. So Joe
and then buy it directly from us, and then I can track that.
Otherwise, he will have difficulties to track that. Right on. So, yeah, let's go through the socials. So we have Cypher here, who is available on Twitch at Cypher Orion, as well as on Twitter, Cypher Orion.
I'm also on
Joe
YouTube
Antlion.
and Spotify.
Okay, I didn't know that. Okay. Antlion is antlion.com or Twitter at Antlion Audio.
Also YouTube/Antlion Audio.
Interesting. Okay. I didn't know that either. Nice. All right. Yeah, but also make sure to follow all the FeVR stuff. So twitch.tv/team/FeVR. There's where the Twitch stream team is live. We have a Discord, discord.gg/FeVR, Twitter at Team FeVR, that is. And on YouTube, but the YouTube link is not that short yet, so we need to work on that. So please subscribe and follow there.
We also have a Discord, discord.gg/Antlion Audio.
Indeed.
Sorry to me at any
That's
time.
where our conversation started.
I'm always
sorry,
there.
I missed that.
If anybody has questions about, I don't know, anything really, just drop me a line, drop me a DM. I'm like the friendliest marketing guy you'll ever run into.
The first thing I ever said to Joe was, "Hey, why doesn't my mod mic sound fantastic?" And he's like, "Because you set it up wrong. Let me help you."
That's how it works.
I was nicer than that, right?
Yes, it was absolutely nicer than that. But it was the synopsis version. I'm sorry. It was a very pleasurable experience, which is why we're speaking right now.
Thank you so much, guys. All right. Have a nice Sunday. See you all back for the next cast in 2 weeks. Have a good evening, afternoon, evening, morning, whatever time zone you're located at. We had issues with time zones today, but yeah, it's all good. Have a nice one and bye-bye.